Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2019, and this is a special dragon interview with our returning friends to the GoldFish Report. We have with me, well, co-hosting with me is my co-host, Steve. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Good to be here, too.
Okay, great. We also have our friend Benjamin Fulford from the White Dragon Society joining us today. Welcome, Benjamin.
Thanks for having me on.
And of course, we have the Red Dragon Ambassador joining us as well. And cool shirt, Benjamin, cool shirt. We have the Red Dragon Ambassador joining us. Welcome back, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, today's interview I thought was going to be very important because there's so much going on the world stage that we were hoping that these two gentlemen could tie all these loose ends together. We're going to do our best that we can in the amount of time that we have. And what we're going to start with is, we're going to start with Benjamin, because I do it in that order like this. Benjamin, recently the Secretary Mnuchin had stated that the U.S. government is about to run out of cash sooner than expected, possibly as soon as early as September. What does this indicate to you? And I mean, because I know through your columns you've been talking about the state of the financial system. So let's start with you, Benjamin.
Well, okay, I've been saying for a long time they need to bankrupt the regime in Washington, D.C., and this has nothing to do with the Republic of the United States. Remember that the U.S. government ran out of money for 35 days in January, but the U.S. military was still funded. And now they're also, the U.S. military is lining up funding again. They're getting in Kuwait and Japan and Saudi Arabia and other places to keep them going, so that when I think bankrupting the corrupt and dysfunctional political establishment in the U.S. is going to be, the best thing that's happened to the Americans since 1776. And I sure hope this time they do it. And it doesn't mean the end of the United States. It means the removal of a bunch of corrupt, buffoons in Washington, D.C. have nothing to do with the American people. They put on these fake shows day in, day out, and it's, the whole world is sick and tired of them. So I really hope that this time they do really bankrupt them once and for all. And that means they'll be replaced by a much better, more honest, competent, and less corrupt group of people who actually tell the truth.
Well, what you're talking about is an end of the USA Corporation, because that's what would be bankrupted.
Yes,
and then there
that's
was a
right.
restoration of the organic constitution. Ambassador, would you like to comment on this question as well?
No, I agree with Benjamin, and I believe that we're coming to that conclusion. That's what this the whole game being played up to be, is to, for Trump to do the bankruptcy. And as he said it before he was elected, that he's the best person when it comes to bankruptcies. So I think that, that has been in the mind. Otherwise, he would not say it,
Right. And Ambassador, we go back a long way. And back in 2014, you had come out, I think, when you first started talking publicly, we were talking about this global reset. And we have been waiting for this reset to happen. There has been, so there's a person who Benjamin talked about in his recent column, his recent article, by the name of Michael Cottrell, who has now been talking publicly about the process of this reset, and that he essentially has he's essentially the trustee or is a signatory of this gold treaty that is supposed to begin this reset, start everything to zero, start the jubilee that you talked about back in 2014. It doesn't seem to be happening in America this quickly. What's going on? And can you verify that he is in fact the signatory to this gold treaty?
I believe that, for no sure, that he is an intelligent asset, you understand, who is making noises. Some of his stories that he's giving is not accurate, Just wait a second here. And we see that this guy, what is his name, Robert Bond, he is the one actually that holds the American gold certificate deposit funds.
Which of his stories, which of his stories would be inaccurate?
What do you say?
Which of his stories would be inaccurate, from what you remember? He said.
You're cutting.
Let me tell you about Michael Cottrell.
Yeah, Benjamin, you mentioned him in your recent article. Go ahead.
Christopher Story, before accused him of stabbing him with a poison that gave him cancer and killed him. And he sent an agent to convince me to try a line of cocaine by the name of Steve McClure. And then Cottrell went around telling everybody that I was a cocaine addict. He's a bad piece of news, and he is an agent. He was involved in the campaign to bankrupt the Soviet Union, but he is not the sort of person who should be put in charge of a new financial system. He is a high-level thug, okay? He's not, he's good at causing trouble and assassinating and that kind of thing. He is not the sort of gentleman we want in charge of something so important, and he does not have any power. He's whistling in the wind, okay?
So you're referring to also,
I agree.
I'm sorry, Ambassador, go ahead.
No, I agree with Benjamin completely.
And that's where Leo Wanta came into the picture too. He was involved with that. Is that right, Benjamin?
Yeah, Leo Wanta, is a much better man, and but again, okay, he helped bankrupt the Soviet Union, but is he the person to save the planet? I don't know. I mean, I like his ideas for building railways and stuff like that, but again, this is something that should be done not by someone secretly appointed, but ideally, in the open with everybody in the world watching.
So you confirm his position. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
My best guess is in the real world, traditionally, this has been the royal families that have decided this, and I think that's still what's going to happen, for
So
lack of a better alternative.
You confirm his position, though, as a signatory to the treaty.
I confer that he was involved in an operation to bankrupt the Soviet Union, and then as a result, at a certain point, astronomical sums of money were technically under his name. That's all I'm saying about him.
So you can't confirm that he is an actual signatory to this so-called treaty, this gold treaty.
Well, even if some people came up and signed with a treaty, I just don't see the real powers going along with it. Like, I just don't see China going along with it. I don't see the financial people in the City of London going along with it. I don't see Rome going along with it. You know what I mean? I just don't see it as having wheels.
So is it possible, I mean, is it true that he's actually, Ambassador, is it true that he's holding up this reset? What do you think is holding up the reset in the United States?
I don't think it's him. I think it's basically that they need to finalize few things before it can happen. I think Rothschilds and this group of people, of Christian Zionists too, that will are the ones that holding back everything. You understand? Because now we have set up alternative system to for central banking and for IMF and World Bank and with the BRICS Bank and with Asia Infrastructural Bank. And now also, as we are speaking, we will have some family people that is releasing funds for projects around the world. And when they do it, they are facing the battle.
Okay.
Sorry, the internet is a little unstable.
Really bad latency. Yeah.
Okay, Ambassador, what have you heard about plans for a future planning agency like the one I've been proposing?
Yeah, it's what's called 555. If when I meet you, I hope I meet you soon. I'm gonna give you the printout of the new system. Okay. And when you have that group that you're talking about, it's a part of that structure.
Okay.
What does the 555 mean to you, Ambassador? What's it mean to you?
What it means to me, it means a lot of different things. It's a code that the family have for plum blossom Buddha, which means that you have been blossoming, and Buddha is the highest level of spiritual consciousness. And basically, this is what we're turning into. And also, it has other things that, for example, if you read in the Bible, you will find all the 666 chapters being counted by 555 chapters. So the antidote to 666 is basically 555, and so 555, during these years of doing the mission, the 555 have dropped up each time around the time when things are changing, when power ships are moving, when the Pope was, chosen, when, the lightning hit the Vatican
The
exactly
Vatican.
5:55 in the morning. The Indonesian president had a 555. Everyone, now we're changing of guard in Malaysia, and where right now these mother accounts are being restructured. So we are heading for the thing, and the people, maybe, including Benjamin, will be having an invite to be a part of this working group that's gonna help liberating humanity.
Benjamin, are you aware of the term 555?
Yeah, I mean, it's come up in different contexts, and it's just a code or a sort of a summary for a group that's opposed to this
Cabal.
satanic cabal. I mean, it has many different meanings, but it's a good number,
Yeah. All right, moving along. I wanted to ask you, Benjamin, what did you think about this, the Bretton Woods? Do you think this is antiquated? There was recently another conference asking that question. Because
IMF.
in the IMF, exactly, Steve. And, so it looks like in order to do this reset, we need to stabilize exchange rates. And of course, through this trade is one way to do that and make it an even playing field for currencies. What do you see the future of this, and is it needed anymore? I mean, fixed versus floating rates, things of that nature.
Right now, we do have a fixed exchange rate system within a band. Okay, they didn't announce it, but if you look at since 2008 or so, I mean, everything's been linked together, including gold already. Just look at the charts and the numbers, and they tell that story. Everything just moves within a band. There's no radical things like, you don't see the yen going from 360 to the dollar to 79 to the dollar like happened after.
And the SKR does exist, doesn't it? The SKR has been in around for a while.
Yeah.
Which is a basket of currencies.
So, that's been sort of stabilized. The problem is that the American economy cannot compete unless they have their own independent currency, and the people are fighting that tooth and nail. And so it's going to keep the industrial. Trump can't just force people to buy expensive stuff. It's not how it works, And until they bite that bullet, I mean, the putting tariffs on is like an indirect way of doing that, but it's a very inefficient way, and it's not, it's not going to help.
Won't it cause stagnation a little bit in terms of trade?
Yeah, I mean, Argentina tried that after World War II, and they went from being the second richest in the world after Switzerland to like a third world country over the years, because they refused to, they tried to make everything for themselves and use high tariffs, and the result was this shoddy Industria Argentina stuff, and hyperinflation and all sorts of problems, and that's what it'll cause a long-term structural decline of the real U.S. economy. It's not going to help.
Okay, Ambassador, I want to ask you to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, Argentina was a funny thing, because when we were doing the audit on Argentina, suddenly the central bank was put to fire. I don't know if you remember that, Benjamin. Someone arsoning the whole central bank to try to
cover their tracks.
What they've been doing, cover their tracks, and we are in a very good place right now. I think that to the next festival coming in the fall here, I think we will have some great announcements, and I'm heading over because I will have to be briefed. So I'm going to Asia. Maybe when I finalize all the things I need to do here in Europe, then I will be heading back to Asia and hopefully get the latest status on the world affairs.
Just while we're on the topic, could I address the quantum financial system that people are talking about using blockchain technology and being backed by commodities like maybe gold, silver, platinum? What do you have to say? Let's start with Benjamin, maybe. What do you have to say about that?
I think there is something already in place. I mean, right now you can take your bank card and go to anywhere on Earth and take out local currency. So something already exists. The problem is, and it seems to be unhackable, so it has happened. The problem, like I say, is that it's now really a political problem. I mean, we need the political decision to carry out, for example, a jubilee, and we need a political decision to decide on a big campaign to create a better future. I think that the money people have done their job, and now it's become a question of creating new political structures that deal with issues that everybody living on the planet shares. For example, we all share the oceans, we all breathe the same air. So there's certain things where we have to work together, and we don't have a framework for that now that's very efficient. We have these very inefficient talks involving hundreds of people, and nothing ever gets done because it's just too complex.
So according to your information, it's already in place. It's a parallel system, but it's just a matter of consensus on the political level. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that there is a system already that deals with day-to-day commerce and financial transactions that's safe and solid, and it's, it clearly.
Swift.
Well, it's not just Swift. There's other systems, the SIPs, and then I think that there's a quantum thing underneath it. But again, what the problem is, for example, when you have a 0.01% of the population controlling 70% of the wealth, and these are not nice people, that's not good for the planet. So, again, like I say, at this point, I think it's a political problem. But I'd like to hear what the ambassador has to say about that.
Yep.
No, personally, I think that when it comes down to the blockchain technology, is being used now by the family too.
Ambassador, we're having trouble hearing you. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me for a minute.
You hear me better now?
That's better. That's better.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I said that the family are using the blockchain technology right now as we're speaking. But this quantum system that is talked about, I don't know if they're referring to blockchain technology, but it's nothing that is the quantum physics type of financial system that some people have been talking about. I think it's the light workers making up these names to sound interesting, but definitely the blockchain technology would be a way to bypass the cabal in movements of funds and changing these digital counts to real physical money and move them without interference of the cabal.
Right. So that's what's holding up the reset is the cabal, is what you're saying. What about how likely is this? I mean, because we're talking about the Federal Reserve and all the Federal Reserve banks. We really need to have a gold-backed dollar. So, Ambassador, how soon can this come into fruition? Because Trump keeps talking about it. In fact, your former employer, Forbes magazine, Benjamin, just put an article out about talking about Trump and the gold-backed dollar. That we need to have this. There's a new Treasury note on the board there. That should be released. We have to get rid of the fiat dollar.
Here's my problem with the gold is that I've spent 10 years chasing this gold. These legendary caves of gold in Asia that are supposed to back this up. I haven't seen any proof it exists. I haven't seen a real inventory of Fort Knox. Okay, so. I talk to these CIA types and these other types, and they all say, oh yeah, there's like 100 million tons, some outrageous amount of gold. And I take a newspaper from the lobby. I say, okay, go take a picture of this newspaper in front of the gold to show me it exists. They can't do it. I'm sorry, but I just don't believe that this gold exists until I see the proof. And repeating something endlessly doesn't make it true. I haven't seen the proof. I think that gold, and also the other thing is, the gold controllers had a saying, the golden rule means that he who has the gold makes the rules. And I think that it's much more realistic to have a basket of commodities, including gold, silver, wheat, oil, copper, things like that exist in the real world, but not just gold.
So you're saying other assets, even historical and antiquities and things of that nature to be backing the currency?
I mean, an inventory of things that exist in the real world,
right?
And use that as the basis. It has to be based in reality, but gold is just a yellow metal. It's not reality in and of itself. It has a long historical tradition of being a safe asset, but it alone is not the answer. And I think most people agree with that in the experts.
Well, you'd have to follow cryptocurrencies. Yeah, that would be along the same line then, because there's nothing backing that. And certainly when you come to the reset and you press zero and everything zeroes out, there's nothing supporting the cryptocurrencies. Ambassador, what do you think about the cryptocurrencies?
Like I said, as long as it can be used for big movements of funds and transfers of funds, I think it's a good thing.
The cryptocurrencies?
Yes, because you can choose. You don't need to go through the cabal structures to make a payment. You understand? So, for example, if I have 5 pallets with 500 euros, so totally around 500 million, and I get equivalent of that in bitcoins, and then I take these bitcoins and then I can cash that out anywhere else, around the world without anyone being able to move it. You understand? And stop it. So, and that is what's happening right now. Even these family operators are using this type of operations to move funds. So I believe that cryptocurrencies is gonna, like Benjamin said, gonna have a downfall. But before that, it would be used. Yes, no? And when it comes to the U.S. Treasury notes and stuff like that, they have been existing on the Federal Reserve screens and the central bank screens for a long, long time. But they have not been launched to the public yet. And they're discounted to, I think, 40% or something like that of its true value. But, and also all the assets that is backing the currencies, it is not only gold. It is gold, it's silver, it's platina, it's ancient art, and oil and natural resources in general.
Right.
So that is what is backing the currency.
Steve, go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah. You mentioned a long time ago, Ambassador, about the black screens, green screens, off-ledger transactions with banks. What is that still exist? What's your knowledge on that?
Yes, of course, it's being used right now as we're speaking to, change some of accounts to the new mother accounts, and but also, a certain percentage of these funds every year is going off the interest is going to be given to humanitarian projects. And that's what the cabal have taken for themselves and not released to the people.
So what's the significance of green screen? Which is the front screen?
Front screen is the front screen, but green screen, or actually they're not the green screen, but the blue screen. It's an intergovernmental screen. It's where you move funds for projects through countries, and it's going for the central bank. And then you have the gray screen, which is a screen that is only debt and interest.
Right.
Okay. Then you have a black screen, which is a screen that holds the mother accounts of the collateral accounts. Okay. And normally they are not playing around with that account, but they're mostly playing around with the gray screen and the blue screen. But it's very hard to say that you would go and want to do a transaction with that. You will have a cabal blocking you, unless they themselves benefits. Otherwise, they will not allow you to enter, because you need to enter, the central banks or banks of high power.
But so this system is their system, right? Sorry, Benjamin, go ahead.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
I just want to confirm, so the problem, again, Ambassador, you agree with me, it's the Zionists and the Christian Zionists who are blocking things?
Yes, they are the ones behind everything. They're the ones that wants to throw us into war with Iran. Yes, sir?
Yeah.
And they're going to do everything they can. And this is the negative thing, is that you have the Christian Zionists wanting to fulfill the prophecies and being used, and also using the normal Zionists. So that is the biggest threat to human peace that we have on the planet. It's these two groups. And the sad thing is that the Christian Zionists are, as you know, very, very is the biggest base of supporters of Donald Trump, and he needs to keep them constantly, satisfied. Otherwise, it would be a problem for, The family already supports a 4-year term more of Trump, and I think he will get it. But he needs to give something to his base of Christian fanatics, you know.
They
How
don't
about
want
how
they
about
don't want war though. No one wants war in America. We're fatigued that we don't want any more war. We want peace. Sorry, go ahead, Benjamin.
I was saying, how about we have some kind of like blue screen event, you know, like they're talking about Project Bluebeam, to satisfy these Christian Zionists, like a big fake end of the world using, you know,
The
computer
second coming.
graphics and
Yes.
holograms and all the stuff. Just you know, make it like a big party without actually killing anybody, you know, and maybe
Yeah.
that would be enough to satisfy them. But you know, something's got to be done with these people. I mean, you know.
Good point, Benjamin. Very good. You know, they have the technology to do that. You know, that was revealed in the WikiLeaks documents. That was one of the plans that the Democrat Party had to prevent
Mhm.
people from coming out to vote for Trump,
Right.
then candidate Trump, was to
Okay,
do
now, but,
alien invasion using that technology.
but I'd like to get back to the ambassador though about Iran.
Yes.
What is your understanding of the role of Aga Khan in all this, and the Blue Dragon family, and also, you know, there is a historical thing, which is that the Romans never conquered that Persian or Parthian or whatever you want to call them, and this split goes way back to the siege of Troy, if I'm not mistaken. So there's an ancient sort of schism between Romans and Greeks that's playing out still, you know, between the Christian and Jewish monotheists and the Muslim Zionist monotheists in Iran. And so I think the roots run very deep. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this subject. And but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, this
Yeah.
schism has to end. But yeah, go on.
You I don't know if you know that Ahmadinejad. You know that he was born a Jew.
I'm
If
sorry
you
that
look,
we're having the trouble with the microphone
Ahmadinejad
again.
was born a
Ahmadinejad
Jew.
was born a Jew. Yeah.
Yeah, we just
was,
need the microphone, Ambassador. If you can get that a little bit closer, I think it. Yeah.
he was born a Jew, Ahmadinejad, and supposedly at the age of 6, he became a Muslim, and he belongs to a very special secret society in Iran, which wants to hasten the arrival of the Mahdi. You understand? And so the problem that we have here is that I personally believe that the mullahs needs to be removed. You understand? But at the same time, I think that you know, everyone has its goal of taking Iran, and it's also a prophecy that says that the Antichrist will be coming with 30,000 Jews in Persian shorts from Isfahan. Understand? So, and if you look at that, it's 30,000 Jews right now living in Iran. You understand?
An Islamic prophecy. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so I think that this is what's going to happen. Also, you know that the present president is also donating a lot of money to the Jewish groups there in Iran. But you know, I hope that the Iranian people should be finding, you know, receiving a more secular state.
All right. So the ambassador just confirmed what I've also heard from my own sources, is that there are people within Iran who are cooperating with people in Israel, trying to get this Gog and Magog war to start between Iran, you know, China and Russia on one side, and the G7 on the other. So, in other words, there are end of world fanatics in Iran who are also part of the problem. And you know, this was Glencore Commodities is the root of both of these things, and that can be traced to Zug, Switzerland. So like I keep saying, we need to send special forces in to raid the compound in Zug, Switzerland, and they also need to physically seize the Bank for International Settlements. And basically, they got to force the Swiss to go and move on both Zug and Basel and put an end to this.
Steve, question, Steve?
Well, yeah, let the ambassador respond first to that.
Okay.
No, I agree. I said.
Okay,
I
okay.
agree with Benjamin.
Well, all right. I just wanted to just quickly touch on these pallets of money that Obama sent over a few years ago to Iran, and that was a restitution of the money that was stolen. Can you talk about that, Ambassador, or not?
Yeah, no problem. No,
Yeah.
you know, it's very much representation in the media, because the truth is this way. This is money that was confiscated after the Iranian Revolution. So
74.
all these pallets of money and cash, cash and carriage of money belongs to the Iranian government.
Right.
So Obama never gave them money. Like I said, Obama gave them money. He didn't give money. He returned stolen money back to the Iranians.
Why at that point, though? Why at that point, not earlier?
No, because they have to settle the interest payments to the family. And basically, you know, this is what's going on now. This is the time of settling the debts for the new financial system to come up. You need to settle.
Right. Zero it out.
Okay.
You have to zero out the debt is going on, and that's what's happening. But of course, the media is have the drums. The Christian Zionists are pushing everything they can for war with Iran, and they're twisting the words and twisting the truth.
Anything that happens, they'll use. Yeah.
To upset, you know, to upset the things, saying that, oh, we give them hundreds of billions, and now Hezbollah is having them, and Hamas is having them, and this is just bullshit, you know.
Okay.
Steve, do you want to follow up with another question?
Well, we could go off on another topic. I mean, we talk about the big companies, Google, Facebook. Facebook came out and admitted that they interfered and they filtered the search results for the abortion agenda in Ireland a while back. And you know, you're being affected, Benjamin, by Google's monopoly. Should we start on that topic?
You know, the amount of journalists who are actually in the United States, for example, who actually go out into the real world and get information, like from local police or whatever, it's gone like from 76,000 to 30-some thousand since 2005, even though the amount of people looking at the newspaper sites has gone up. So they're cutting off real journalism, real world information, and they're replacing it with their own agenda. They're with computer graphics and with skewed and manipulated search results. I mean, Google originally got its start by accurately reflecting what people were interested in. Now they're trying to manipulate it. You know, and nobody gave them that right, and they shouldn't have it. They're an enemy of the truth, and I think that they need to be physically occupied, nationalized, and turned into utilities.
Well, this is what the whole purpose of the social media summit was at the White House. And I was really grateful to get the White House press privileges. I was reporting from the White House for a little while. And, you know, it's definitely a different environment being there. And the focus of this social media summit was obviously the censorship. It was obviously the shadow banning, the deleting accounts, the interfering, the algorithms basically that really are the new book burning. It's the new,
digital fascism.
Yeah, it's digital fascism, but because it's Operation Mockingbird that's controlling. They succeeded at controlling the airwaves through television, and now they're going to succeed at controlling the flow of information through the internet. And you're absolutely right, Benjamin. And of course, GoldFish Report has been one of the most censored sites that there is. We've had our channels deleted, our blogs deleted. We've had massive censorship, videos removed, and for arbitrary reasons. There's really no justification, and there's really no recourse either when it comes to trying to deal with the companies. I don't know what your experience has been like, but when you tried to contact
basically,
anywhere?
No, I haven't. That's why, I put out, I asked for a bounty to put out on Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, because they've been using PayPal to block people's funds, and not just me. Yeah. And now we're going to do the same for the top people in Google and Facebook. We're going to have to literally, there's no alternative. The courts aren't going to help us. We're going to have to go and hunt these people down and physically put them in jail or otherwise incapacitate them. That's the only way it's going to happen. These people aren't going to politely move aside. And at the very top, we have to go to the little group of families that still control the Fortune 500 companies. Right. And I'm talking about the Rockefellers, with their different names, Clinton and Zuckerberg and whatever. We got to go after these people. They don't. They got to control the Fortune 500 through murder and bribery and other dirty tricks. And they are not. They are the problem, and they need to be dealt with. And it's not going to go away until that's done.
Well, in part to that we have this list of, which you've mentioned you cited in your previous articles, this list of over 100,000 sealed indictments. We had this blackout in New York City, one in DC. We have all kinds of crazy things going on. And it does look like that finally with this arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, there's really going to be some cleaning of the house. And there's going to be a lot of people who, I believe, through these military tribunals, people we weren't expecting.
Well, Louisa, since you're in Washington, could you see if anybody has vanished after the raids and after the blackout in Washington, D.C.?
I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, follow up, because let's see if they're actually, has anybody gone missing? Like known bad guys, have they suddenly vanished?
Are the Clintons still walking around? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what some were saying, some were speculating. Do you have any more inside information about this blackout? This New York City blackout?
I had the one on New York. I did have information. It was a raid on the Clinton Foundation, a few other areas like 666 Fifth Avenue that took place. So that was real, and I did have information. I just don't have any information on Washington, D.C. But here's since Louisa, you are in Washington. A friend of mine during the election campaign went to an event where Hillary Clinton was supposed to be there, and she wasn't. It was in the school auditorium. There were a few hundred people, and she wasn't there. But then on the TV, she was there.
Green screen.
Have you personally, physically seen Bill or Hillary Clinton in the past year living in Washington, D.C.?
No, I just travel. I commute from New York to Washington, so I'm not there all the time.
Okay,
and I really only cover the White House. I'm just specifically covering the president. So
I understand, but it would be nice to see if we can actually get someone to physically confirm they still exist.
It's a good point.
You're absolutely right, Benjamin, because the virtual reality now, they can do anything. You don't know what to believe when you see something on the internet.
I know George Soros is gone. They've been trying to make videos of him and stuff, but they're giving up on that. It's later they're winding down George Soros as the designated boogeyman. He's long gone, and they're having trouble faking his continued existence.
Right.
Ambassador, what do you know about this?
Follow up on that. Yeah, Ambassador.
He's muted. Yeah.
Oh.
Ambassador. Oh, he's muted.
All right. If he's not there, can we just quickly on Kim Jong-un? What gives there? Was that a CIA set up there at the beginning? Was it control there, and then what turned? What was the change?
Okay,
there in North
here's
Korea?
the thing. The CIA under Bush and those guys were dealing with amphetamines.
Yeah.
And North Korea forever. So and this is the old Nazi network, the Japanese leftovers from the imperial government of World War II. They kept their relations after the war. And so they've always had, these connections, which are different. And then they were also selling them weapons and providing them with the nuclear weapons, and also using them as a boogeyman to convince the Japanese to buy things like, Patriot missiles and whatnot. And now they're trying to bring this whole relationship out of the closet, and there are people trying desperately to stop this from happening, trying to get Koreans and Japanese to fight each other, to hate each other. They're absolutely terrified of the Koreans unifying and then having friendly relations with the Japanese because, Japan and Korea together would be a superpower right up there with Russia and China, and a lot of people don't want that to happen.
Okay, I have a question. I'm sorry, I have to go back to the financial issue. Is the ambassador back with us?
Yes.
Okay, this whole thing about the blockchain technology, it sounds great. It sounds like we're going to be moving to digital currencies one way or the other, or some digital form. The whole concern is, this New World Order agenda of, creating this microchip implant and having everybody's, finances on there. And if they're not happy with you, they should shut it off and you can't buy food or all these other things. Now, I know that I'm not quite sure how, far they are with that agenda, but is this digital currency introduction, is this not a tiptoe to totalitarianism?
No, it's basically, Bitcoin, the financial system of Antichrist in reality. Yes, sir. It's asset, if it's asset backed, then it's fine. But this is just digital money. They can disappear. I mean, you can have a few million in your account, and tomorrow someone have hacked it. And who's supposed to be the one regulating you to get the money back? There's no one doing that. Yes, so it's a very, actually, in reality, it's a scary thing. But it can be used, wisely if you do it.
Right.
But most of these coin things has been scams too. There's a lot of scams out there with cryptocurrencies.
Well, the wallets have been scams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, look, the country, there was just an article yesterday that I published regarding Sweden being, the first country to actually go almost completely digital. So, I guess is that a prototype of what's to come?
Yeah. This is where the cabal chose and worked together with the former Prime Minister of Sweden. And he write that Sweden is supposed to be the first cashless society. And today, if you look at it, there's no cash inside the banks in Sweden anymore.
Yeah, you buy chewing gum with a card. Yeah.
Other than the central bank,
That is a little scary. What do you think about that, Benjamin?
Well, I think the thing is that there's this thing out there called reality, the real world. So you cannot turn a cabbage into a digital thing, okay? And that's why these schemes will fail at the end of the day. So suppose that somebody is cut off from all the digital currency. He can still grab a loaf of bread with his hands and put it in his mouth. They can't, you know what I mean? So
barter will win out.
Barter or whatever. The point is that they cannot control the real world. These digital things, at the end of the day, they don't exist except in people's minds. They're not physical. And that's why, in the end, they will fail. If they try to take it too far, people in the physical reality will take physical action, and that'll put an end to it.
I agree with you, but we've had the fiat system for so long, and people still believe in the paper that we have in our wallets.
As long as it puts real solid things onto their
exchangeable
plate.
Yeah,
exchangeable. I mean, when they, for example, they try to completely cut off criminal networks from the financial system they've been doing forever. They resort to cash,
they bypass it. Yeah.
or gold or artworks, but you can't, you cannot block physical things with digital. It just can't be done. It's a limited, it's not impossible. It's not possible. Okay.
Okay.
Reality will always win.
That's a good point, but I agree with you, Louisa, completely. That look, it's a possibility that we're heading towards Cabal 2.0 by having this blockchain system where they can just turn us off. I mean, how could we possibly avoid that? Okay, reality check happens. We go back to the barter system. People will always survive.
Or we go to their palaces with pitchforks.
The pitchforks. Yeah. Okay.
With pistols, you mean? With pistols?
Yeah.
Don't give up our Second Amendment right.
Yeah, that's in the States. The rest of us have been unarmed. Disarmed.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I know. Yeah. And of course, that's what happened in New Zealand. And of course, immediately as soon as that,
it's all disarmed. Australia.
I'd like to ask the ambassador something again.
Good. Mm-hmm.
What are you hearing about talks of a world federation or some kind of new world, organization to replace what's been put in place after World War II, like something newer and better? Have you heard anything about this?
Yes, it's supposed to have its headquarters in Xi'an, China, the new United Nations. But for that to happen, you need to collapse America. You understand?
Right.
America needs to attack Iran and facing harsh problems, because the Europeans will start screaming, because it's going to affect their oil things and prices, and it's going to be causing that people doesn't want to have this aggressor as running the United Nations anymore. So you will see things happening that are going to lead up to the new World League of Nations.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the United States Army is going to go along with these Zionist wackos. So I think it's much better for the Asians to just hire them and help to keep the peace. And it's like I keep saying, it's cheaper to feed a guard dog than it is to fight a hungry wolf. So my advice has always been, hire the military and let them get their help to, fix up the planet.
Hmm.
They're
I
not
have a
going to start an end of the world war for the Zionists. It's not going to happen. They
Okay.
can scream all they want, but the men with guns will not put their lives on the line anymore for these religious wackos.
Where do the Chinese stand on this, do you think, Benjamin?
Well, I'd like to ask the ambassador about
Yeah.
that.
Ambassador.
No, they're secular. They're not. They're scared of religion. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
Can't
In what
hear
way
you
are they
that well.
scared?
You gotta
In what way are they
Huh?
scared?
move that
No,
microphone a little closer.
because it's a threat to their system. Their system is not based on religion, and religious people will be rioting, will be disobedient to the state's IDs. You understand? That's why you see all this Muslims being arrested and Christians and so on and so on. It's because they're having outside influence from different other groups through the cabal. You understand? And secret societies like Freemasonry is also forbidden in China. So, so China needs to, keep this under control. Otherwise, they're gonna have more splits, and even China could split out in small pieces. You understand? Which
Okay,
would be yeah.
I understand about that. The thing, China did have a good point when they said that when they took all these Uyghurs and stuff to these education camps, that not a single Muslim country objected to what they were doing, and 37 Muslim countries supported them. So, but I'm not going to go down that road. What I am going to say is that my understanding of the Chinese is that they're perfectly willing to make a deal with the U.S. military and with the Europeans, for power sharing after Washington, D.C. is bankrupted.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's a part of the plan, and
Yeah.
I believe it will be happening very soon.
I believe
Right.
so too.
So, just a quick question for Benjamin. You don't see the Chinese, I mean, you're over there in Asia, you understand the mentality. You don't see them as having an expansionist policy, or is it just simply defensive by...
If you look at 4,000 years of Chinese history, they haven't, that's not how they work. I mean,
Yeah.
Prime Minister Mahathir of Malaysia was saying that they sent an embassy in like 200 BC, and they could have easily conquered them at that time, and they never did. They just, set up trade relations. They don't see any benefit in it. Okay, they don't.
Yes.
They're pragmatic. There's nothing to gain and a lot to lose. It's much better to have friendly relations than to pick a fight. That's their thinking.
But with the Confucianist philosophy, they like to keep order. They have to have order and structure.
I mean that's the problem. I worry about the Chinese where they're too much into everybody thinking the exact same thing, and not enough variation and opinion and whatever lifestyle. That's the sort of thing that led to the stagnation of Chinese civilization. And you got to be wary about that part of Chinese culture. But in terms of being expansionist or aggressive, no.
Well, Ambassador, you and I talked about this. You see China behind all these massive infrastructure projects globally. I mean, they're everywhere. There's bridges, roads, this Belt and Road Initiative that Benjamin cites in all of his reports. There is, so there is this appearance that that they're a communist country, but they're out doing all of this funding. As you said, they're funding these projects. How do they reconcile those two things? How is it not imperial? Is it imperialistic ambitions? How is that?
I'll give you an example. The government of the Congo, years ago sent a delegation to the United States and Europe, and they said, look, we've got all this copper, and we'll give you the copper if you build us, railways and roads. And they said, no, buzz off. And then they went to China, and the Chinese said, sure. And now they can, they've got functional roads and railways again. So my advice is you ask the Africans themselves what they think about Chinese bridges and roads. And what I've heard when I have talked to Africans, they say, well, when the Chinese come, they bring business. When the Europeans come, they bring machine guns and mercenaries, So I don't think that, what I've been saying is that the West needs to do something even bigger and better than the Belt and Road Initiative. But, it's not really a good strategy to criticize people for building bridges. It's not, the place to attack them. You might attack them for monothought and all, trying to, not allowing enough dissidents and different opinions and suppressing inventions. I mean, what's the last thing the Chinese have invented for the past 1,000 years? But building roads and bridges is not where you attack them.
Well, I'm not attacking them. I'm just saying, at what
Yeah,
point
but
if
they
they're
are
not
in the media
imperialistic.
constantly. They keep trying to, find some flaw in it. But, that's actually a good thing they're doing. I don't see why you should attack it.
Ambassador, yeah, could you comment on that, Ambassador?
No, I agree with what Benjamin says, is that, they're building bridges and ports and infrastructure that's benefiting the world. And the plan with the 555 was to interconnect the world and through all this 555 system of, the 5 BRICS nations, and then using these 5 continents to spread and interconnect with the whole continents. You understand? And if we did that, then also each country would also need to be in peace with each other, because they're depending on each other for the roads. So it's like the pipeline of peace that was done between Iran, Pakistan, and India. Now they want to block it so that they cannot come to India, the oil. But this is a way to bring peace, is by interconnecting people, making people dependent on each other. It's like the old days of Soviet Union. They had different parts of Soviet Union was producing one thing and the other part was producing this thing. And to be able to keep themselves in peace with each other, they needed to cooperate and trade with each other. And I think this is what is the base behind the 555 Belt and Road initiative.
Yeah, and you could see that in President Trump's recent quotes. He was talking about how Xi Jinping, the relationship that he has with China, and he was talking about how he felt it was a good relationship, but Xi Jinping is for China, which is communist, and he is for America, which is not. So they do have this, I don't know if it's a rivalry, but they definitely have different approaches to solutions. Xi Jinping is obviously putting in a lot of infrastructure, creating peace. As you have said, while America was at war, China was making peace and building bridges. So, they have a very different philosophy, and it works for them. And President Trump is out there doing trade deals, internationally, and that's his way of doing this through commerce. Go ahead, Benjamin.
Well, like I said, I have been hearing that they are preparing a literally multi-trillion-dollar Western campaign to do things like turn the deserts green and replenish the oceans with fish and plant forest the size of China and in the United States combined, and that kind of work. So it would be in harmony with the infrastructure work the Chinese are doing. It'd be more environmental and lifestyle work. But if the West doesn't want to be overtaken by China, they have to do something even bigger and better than Belt and Road. Not just bitch and moan about building bridges, which is really stupid. And that's what I've been pushing for. And I'm hearing that at a very high level, there's been a green light, and then the Chinese are okay with it, and the Europeans are okay with it. And the problem is these, as the ambassador and I both say, it's these wacko Zionists.
Okay, so it's starting to wrap this up. Ambassador, would you like to comment on that?
No, I agree with him. If we can have the Christian Zionists in order, then we would, because they're being used by the other Zionists, so we can keep them under control. I think the world will have peace. If we let them get their ways going, then we're gonna have a lot of trauma coming in the future.
Right, Steve. Let you close up any final questions that you have for anybody, so we can wrap this up.
Well, we could go on for at least another 2 hours, I think. But yes, it's been very interesting, and I do see that. I hope that with the investments that China's making, that they're basically, as Benjamin says, they want to have an equitable exchange system across the world of commodities in order to keep peace. And it's more productive. Peace is more productive. War is destructive. So I hope it's not the IMF's old policy of moving into Africa, taking a few wealthy people and pumping investments into the countries and then having them in debt in perpetuity. I hope that's not the case, which let's see.
The Chinese have been writing off debt like crazy. You know, they haven't
Okay.
been trying to use
Forgiving
debt.
debt. Yeah. All right.
The only
Well,
thing they tried to attack him was what happened with the port in Sri Lanka. But if you study that issue, that was the Sri Lankans' fault. It was a local corruption that led them to build a port that they really didn't need and didn't know how to use, and it was the Sri Lankans' fault. Okay, that's the special case.
okay.
Okay. So what do you think about the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, this NXIVM trial, and this end to the child trafficking? It really is a big global problem.
Let's see if they stop talking about 15-year-old girls and they start talking about 10-year-old kids being murdered. When that happens,
right.
I'll know it's really started.
Quite right.
I mean, are there some people? Look, Jeffrey Epstein released his black book with names. I think it's been reported that this temple down on this St. James Island.
All right, why haven't they raided? I'm sorry. Why haven't they raided the island with special forces? Why haven't they sent the world TV cameras into the temple?
Right.
Let's see that before I believe it. Okay.
Well, yeah, I've been getting reports that that's happening right now, but I cannot confirm them. I cannot independently confirm.
Well,
them.
let's see. I want to see a Nuremberg-type trial for these people.
Yeah.
We want to see these people in public on trial with the whole world to know exactly what their crimes were and why they're on trial.
Exactly.
Quite right.
They're people. I mean, we had Nancy Pelosi's daughter saying, a lot of their faves are going to be implicated in this. So that's going to be a lot of people that most people recognize on a daily basis in Hollywood. Maybe because the NXIVM had Keith Raniere. Was that they had actors, they had actresses. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a big shaking up, I think. Ambassador, what do you think about that?
Well, as Benjamin says, I hope that they will have proper courts and expose the people for they are, and that they should be punished to the full extent that they can be punished,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all these agencies have all this dirt on these people for a long time, and they kept it to control the world.
Right.
Exactly.
If you want to release, if you want to release now and come honestly and get rid of these people that needs to go, then you need to expose them in public.
But who is Epstein doing these videotapes for? Does anyone have
It was
a comment on that?
He was a Mossad acid.
Okay, just want to get that out. So there's organized crime involved in this, and are they concerned about this? Are those individuals concerned? You think?
Some are and some aren't. I mean, it's the sickos who murdered kids who are worried, not the other guys who are just dealing drugs or whatever. They don't know. They're not the problem. They're a separate problem. They're not the problem.
Before we close up, let me ask Benjamin, do you have any comments or other questions for the ambassador before we leave, or any other topics?
Well, I guess, Ambassador, do you think that this September might be the time we finally get a breakthrough? Do you think we can push that?
I think so. This is what is the goal, that by this fall that things should be moving on the 555. So I really pray and hope so, and so it's not getting delayed to Chinese New Year.
Excellent. And let me know if there's any way I can help. Contact me whenever through Louisa, and we'll get things done. I'm going to have a very restful summer because I expect to be very busy in the autumn.
Oh, that's very good. But Benjamin, in our last interview, you did say that one of the big holdups to this progress was the fact that, this gravy train, they don't want to give up this gravy train. And is there any way to negotiate some quality of life, some decent, lifestyle that would satisfy them and let us still continue with progress? Is there?
There's no contradiction. You don't have to make the rich poor in order to make the poor rich. There's lots of things that can be done. Nobody's out to get real entrepreneurs or people who earn their money. We're only after high-level con men and thieves and parasites, not productive entrepreneurs.
Right.
This is not socialism. This is not communism. We're talking about justice, and truth.
Indeed. And Ambassador, did you want to comment on that?
No, it's fine. I agree with it.
Is there anything, Ambassador, that you wanted to comment on, or did you have any questions, or did you have any comments that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, we're going to have an update for everyone in a few weeks. Maybe we go to when Benjamin is back from his holiday. we will have another update for what have happened over here with the work that I'm doing as we're speaking.
Okay, very good. And we're hoping
Thank you.
for progress. We're hoping that the things get worked out during the summer. We know that if we run out of money, there's not going to be a break for the for Congress on their. Hopefully, they'll work those things
For the
out.
corporation, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I've always told the Asians and other people that the United States is like a beautiful woman with syphilis, and which means make sure she takes her antibiotics before getting too friendly. Okay, and then so hopefully this summer you'll be taking your antibiotics and getting rid of this satanic syphilis.
It's
That's a lovely image. Thanks, Benjamin. I love that.
All right.
It's a parasite host
We'll
relationship.
leave you at that. All right. Bye.
Thank
Bye
you,
for now.
Benjamin, for joining us. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining
It was
us.
great. Yeah,
We'll be
great
back,
interview.
as
Thank you.
Ambassador said, with an update, and we want to thank our guests for joining us, and also thanks to our viewers for viewing. And don't forget to go to the GoldFishReport.com and support Goldfish Report so that we can keep bringing these interviews to you, and keep Goldfish Report going, because in this age of censorship, there's a world of pain going around to all the people who have worked so very hard to build these channels and to build these services to bring them to you. So please go to the Goldfish Report, become a Patreon, and help support Goldfish Report. And we will be back with another report. We'll be back with another POTUS report next week. And this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report.